Thank you very much. And now, last but not least, we have our California Police Chiefs Association, well represented by its Chief Mitch Tavera, and I would very much be interested in your thoughts on this.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Chairperson and members of the panel.
If you could grab a microphone, this is being recorded, and we'd love to hear what you have to say. No problem.
And again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you today. I am representing the Cal Chiefs here today, and I'm really addressing the use of the civilian hobbyists flying drones over public spaces and private spaces in general. I'd like to give some examples. That just so happens in El Segundo that I've had experience with several drones flying over some of our critical infrastructure, our roadways, our sidewalks. And when they fly over, they're usually videotaping. We have refineries, we have a military base in our city, public schools, and power plants. So all three of those, or four of those things, do have their own special problems. When the small unmanned aircraft or small drones fly over roadways, parkways, sidewalks, I have video or seen video and watched them where they have actually landed on those types on the roadways because they've lost power. And I'm truly worried about the likelihood of an increase in vehicular and pedestrian accidents with them falling out of the air. Not because sometimes the drone is mechanically unfit, which it can be. It can lose power, but also operator error. Those things really do concern us. Remember, there are no certifications for the hobbyist to fly a drone, no certification of his accreditation to operate the drone or of his aircraft itself. Another issue that comes up with flying over our roadways and our sidewalks is distracted driving, especially at a low altitude. And I would just mention to Madam Chairperson that the state of California has gone to great lengths to address distracted driving with our laws. And we understand that the more we put onto a driver, the more likely is they are to have an accident. And it truly does concern us with distracted driving. The operation of the devices alongside and over public facilities, critical and private infrastructure also is a concern to us. And I can go into a few of those issues right now. In particular, police stations, the rear of our facilities are often have 6-foot or higher fences, and the drones will oftentimes fly alongside or above. And while in that itself may not seem so bad, when they do view in the back, oftentimes at police facilities, we're bringing in victims of crimes, witnesses of crimes. And we take a look at that as being a violation by recording them and putting them on public airways, a violation of possibly Marcy's laws, which takes a look at the Victims' Bill of Rights of disclosing confidential information concerning our victims. It may violate or it may uncover confidential informants or undercover officers, their vehicles and their agents. So those are our concerns to us on a law enforcement arena. We put and we post no trespassing signs alongside, but yet they're viewing in the back. Military bases. I'll give you an example in El Segundo of the LA Air Force Base of flying a drone alongside the Air Force Base and providing real-time footage. Now, it may have been to a civilian hobbyist, but that certainly could have been to somebody who intended on doing terrorism or other types of crimes to any facility, but especially to our Air Force Base. And inside that Air Force Base, we have VIPs, we have security setups, we have high-ranking military officials. I definitely think they have a concern with the use of civilian drones observing their property. Our oil refineries, power stations, electrical grid facilities, athletic stadiums, or athletic fields. I would certainly have concern about flying alongside or inside those facilities and the drone, again, losing power, especially in a power station or especially in an oil refinery and crashing. It could cause issues, could cause a fire. It flies over electrical grid facility and crashes. Think what a Mylar balloon does when it hits a power line. Imagine what an unmanned aircraft would do that's not flown properly. And we lose a whole grid of electricity. You think about it during the summertime when we have some of our heat issues, and we could actually have a large power outage with some real public safety concerns. Flying the drones over athletic stadiums or athletic fields, because more likely it'd be maybe watching your soccer on Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon and filming the participants. If, again, that drone were to crash or have a mechanical failure, what would happen to those children, those participants, to the people along the sidelines? And also identifying people of our children are in particular. So those are concerns for me, as well as our public schools. our private schools, identifying of our children. I think it's a real concern for parents that they don't want their children being identified on a drone, being put up on a public web page, and maybe being viewed by people who have less than well intentions. And those are things I have experienced. Those are things that we have recordings. Those are things that are getting put on public web pages. And I do think there has to be some type of regulation. When we get called out, for instance, to a refinery and said, we don't want that drone flying over our airspace, we're kind of hampered right now because really all we have are the FAA regulations. And those are more administrative than they are criminal in nature. And so for law enforcement, while we do recognize and respect the First Amendment right and want to definitely work within that, but we do see some issues with public safety in the operation of hobbyist drone usage.
Thank you. Good questions to follow up on. I think most people would be very concerned if their children were being taped and droned or whatever we could call it while they're in school and then having things posted on the web. I mean, this is clearly a technology with tremendous adverse potential applications. And I hadn't thought of the terrorist one, but that's an obvious one. You don't know who's flying the drone, and you don't know what they're looking at. And if there are spaces that are supposed to be out of bounds and off limits, drone just doesn't care. It can just fly right in there. So that's some cause for concern. I think the public would be very interested in trying to sort of, to the extent we can, try to limit that, because even, if it's a violation of some sort and somebody flies a drone, what are you going to have you go in and shoot it down?
Well, yes, ma'am, that's another issue with it too, is to track the person flying it. It's that real-time video. It's different than having a video from Google for flying overhead. It's the real-time video, whether it's a terrorist aspect or even a crime syndicate, a crime type tool will go in and where are the security guards? Where are the police officers? Mm-hmm. It definitely can be used as an adversarial tool against us. And it is a concern as a chief of police for my community to provide safety for all of my community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This was very helpful. Again, this balancing seems to get trickier and trickier, but really appreciate these perspectives as well. I don't think, frankly, they were as immediate to some when we start talking about the use of drone in backyards. And then this discussion has just really kind of expanded with the fact these technologies are fascinating and have almost unlimited application. And like most things, it's for good and for bad, so we have to figure out how to make it work together. Thank you very much for your time. We are now at public comment. It's about 10 after 5. May I inquire if there are any people who would like to comment publicly? If you would step up and give you each a couple minutes, if you wouldn't mind, to share your thoughts with us, but just a couple minutes each if we could. And thank you for being here and for your patience. Come on up and just grab a seat here. We'll start with the gentleman in the middle. If you'd tell us your name and affiliation, and again, if you could give us just in a short summary of your concerns or observations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Michael Shaw with the California Manufacturers and Technology Association. I just wanted to thank you for the deliberate way in which you approach this issue here before the committee and addressing, some very significant issues that do exist and should be considered in the thoughtful manner that which you've approached it. We do represent some companies that manufacture these products, and also some members that are looking to utilize these products. Yeah, I just wanted to note, innovation is really the lifeblood of the economy. I mean, small businesses, we like to say, are the backbone. I think innovation is the lifeblood of the economy, and significant new and emerging technologies represent opportunity for California's economy to grow. That means jobs, and that means other economic benefits for the state, increased tax revenue and the sort. So as we look at this issue, I think one thing we should keep in mind is it would be beneficial for the state to have the mindset of how do we encourage responsible use of commercial and recreational drones. There's opportunity here, as noted in the background paper for the committee. 12% of the $98 billion that's expected to be spent globally on commercial drone use or on drones is for commercial use. So there's a significant opportunity for California to get a share of that money, which will result again in California jobs and putting Californians to work. There's also opportunities for efficiency. On the environmental side, there may be opportunities to help businesses operate more efficiently to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So there are some very real potential environmental benefits as well. And it's important to note that California already has a significant economic footprint in this area, and that as we seek to grow our manufacturing economy, create good paying jobs for Californians, we should be looking at ways to encourage that. And as I noted earlier, that mindset, I think, is an important step in that direction, but also recognition of we already have a significant share of this is a good element, a good factor to keep in mind as we move forward. I think the state that successfully does that is going to be the state that's able to more, I think, quickly and in a more significant way grab some of that economic opportunity.
Thank you very much. Gentleman here to your left, my right.
Hi, my name is Jared Ficker. I'm here on behalf of Aerial Conservation. Chairwoman Jackson and members of the committee, thank you for putting this together. Briefly, I'd want to echo the safety, privacy, and opportunities outlined in this hearing are all real issues. It's very timely that you put the panels together and this hearing. It's a very timely matter. Aerial Conservation is a remote sensing company offering tools for conservation and stewardship. And unmanned aircraft systems are one of the most significant advancements in the remote sensing technology area, traditionally using both satellites and traditional aircraft, whether they be fixed wing or helicopters, have been our tools to date. They've traditionally been very expensive for the conservation community to deploy, and unmanned aircraft systems offer really some just fabulous innovation to apply to conservation stewardship. In particular, we're working with the land trust community to do conservation easement monitoring, which is an annual requirement for the conservation community. And let me tell you a few things about the way we've approached this application. Technology does exist to geofence the areas that we are flying over. So all properties that we fly over and the work that we're attempting to do have landowner consent, and the data that we collect is essentially geofenced out as well. So only the data that we're gathering over the property we're collecting. So there are mechanisms whereby we can ensure both privacy and safety in the approach that we do. The vehicles that we use are autonomous. They fly under 500 feet. But more importantly, I guess I want to make just a few recommendations for the committee, because I think that is something you're looking for.
Yes.
First and foremost, California needs a policy roadmap in this area. As the FAA develop rules, and we've just heard of the recent announcement, California needs a plan to, in parallel, encourage responsible deployment of unmanned aircraft systems, and provide the certainty both to the marketplace, but also make sure that there's adequate protections both for privacy and safety. Second, and I think a lot of this was covered in this hearing, is help get the jargon straight. There's hobbyists versus professionals, there's recreation versus commercial, there's piloted versus autonomous, and there's a whole slew of language around airspace, and we've seen quite a discussion around that. It's directly related to very different policy pathways, and getting the jargon clear will dramatically help how you develop policy. Third, go slow in areas where more work and appropriate understanding of both privacy and safety issues are necessary, but help accelerate responsible and appropriate use areas. And finally, consider using the state agencies here in California, where we have often deployed and fostered innovation for other types of technologies to develop a responsible use policy in California. Some examples could be State Lands Commission lease monitoring, Department of Fish and Game mitigation monitoring, wildlife management area monitoring, and finally, ARB potentially using for fugitive greenhouse gas emission monitoring. So those are just a few suggestions. Again, thank you for putting this together.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Last but certainly not least.
Am I there? Okay. My name is Patrick Egan. I've been doing this commercially for about 13 years or so. I started here, I live in Sacramento, and I started using this technology to augment my existing business. And I would actually take pictures for condo projects like the Aura Tower that was supposed to be down the street. I didn't bring any of the photos, maybe next time. But, you know, I think that one thing that we have to realize is this technology has been around for a while. Even the recreational or hobby users have been doing it for 70 some odd years. The commercial use has been here for many years, and data collection for scientific reasons has been going on 20, 25 years. There is a proliferation in the, let's say, ease to fly these and the availability of the technology, and it is becoming part of the public consciousness. But I can't cover the points of all of the real estate that was covered today, because we'd probably be here until tomorrow, because there's a lot of points.
We've got about 2 minutes.
Okay, and so, but basically I'd like to just say thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to have a dialogue, because I think that's what's important, is everyone from the public and all sides of this can join the conversation. That's definitely necessary. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your being here. That concludes our hearing. Those of you who are left, thank you. Those of you who are listening, I hope this has been an interesting discussion. It's just the beginning. We've got a lot of areas where we need to look at this. Drones is the particular issue of the day, and I think one that's very, very important, where we try to take advantage of the technology, take advantage of what it can do for the state of California, but also recognize the human sides of this, the privacy issues, as well as our safety and security issues that were raised during the discussion as well. So just the beginning. I'm sure there'll be more. I look forward to working with all of you and hearing your thoughts as we go forward. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.